The billionaire landlord visited the tenant at midnight. The neighborhood group chat exposed it, and he paid her tuition Crane. A man who owned half the block, who rarely spoke but always watched. His tailored suits never seemed to wrinkle. His name alone made tenants straighten their backs in the elevator. Yet tonight he was standing outside the cheapest unit in the building, hers. She didn't move, not until his voice slipped through the crack in the wood. Miss Chen. Her breath caught. He knew her name. Every instinct screamed at her to stay silent, but curiosity, that dangerous thread, pulled her toward the door. She opened it just an inch, and there he was. No suit tonight, just a dark coat collar turned against the night chill. His eyes, sharp even under the dim hallway light, softened when they met hers. He looked less like a billionaire and more like a man carrying something too heavy for one person. "Sorry for the hour," he said quietly. "I didn't want to disturb you, but I needed to speak with you." Her grip tightened on the doorframe. "About my rent?" she asked, her voice trembling. His lips pressed into a line. "Not exactly." That answer was worse. Much worse. Behind him, the hall was silent, but Amelia swore the walls were listening. Her neighbors always were. They didn't need an invitation to twist shadows into stories. Julian glanced down the corridor, then back at her. "May I come in?" Her heart lurched. Midnight. A man like him. Alone. This was a headline waiting to happen. She almost slammed the door, but instead she shook her head firm. "It's not a good time." Something flickered across his face, disappointment. Maybe relief. He nodded once, reached into his coat pocket and pulled out a plain envelope. "Then at least take this," he said. Before she could answer, he slid it through the small gap, turned, and walked away. Amelia stood frozen, envelope in hand, the hallway light flickering above her. What was inside? Money. A notice, a threat. Her phone buzzed on the nightstand. A group chat notification lit the screen. Neighborhood watch. The first message read, "Did anyone else just see Crane leaving 4B? Then another. He knocked on her door at midnight, and another with a picture attached, blurry but unmistakable. Julian Crane, her landlord, outside her apartment. Her pulse raced. She hadn't even opened the envelope, and already the world outside her door was ready to open it for her. What she didn't know was that this was only the beginning, and the group chat had just started typing. The group chat explosion. The phone buzzed again. Amelia snatched it from the nightstand, her thumb trembling as she scrolled through the flood of messages. Neighborhood watch had always been noisy. Most nights it was full of complaints about parking lost packages or someone's dog barking past midnight. But this was different. Tell me I'm not crazy, but that was Crane outside 4B. Not crazy. I saw him too. What business does he have there at that hour? Isn't 4B that student the quiet one? Yup. Amelia. Always late with rent. Her chest tightened. They were naming her now. Another photo popped up, clearer than the first. Julian Crane's tall figure captured under the hallway light. His hand raised mid-knock. Amelia's door half open in the frame. Her stomach sank. She hadn't even opened the envelope, but her neighbors had already written the story for her. The pings kept coming. Must be an affair. Why else would he show up past midnight? Bet she got a special deal on rent. No wonder tuition girls make it through this city. Her cheeks burned hot. She wanted to throw the phone across the room. Instead, she pressed it tight against her chest as if she could muffle the noise of strangers turning her life into gossip. Somewhere in the building, someone laughed. Thin walls carried everything: coughs, arguments, footsteps. Now they carried mockery. Julian Crane, meanwhile, would probably sleep soundly in his penthouse, untouched by the wildfire he had sparked. But the chat wasn't finished. A new message blinked across the screen. "You all forget what happened with the girl in 7C. Her breath caught. She remembered. Everyone did. The girl in 7C had vanished last year. No goodbye, no forwarding address. Rent paid off, suddenly her unit emptied overnight. The whispers then were the same: Crane had taken care of her. But no one knew what taken care of really meant. The chat erupted again. Pattern: anyone first 7C, now 4B. He's making rounds. Scandal incoming. Her throat felt dry, her palms clammy. She hadn't asked for any of this. All she had done was open the door a crack. The envelope still sat on her desk, its seal unbroken. She stared at it now as though it contained poison. Should she open it? Or would that only prove them right that she was somehow involved? Her mind chased itself in circles until the phone buzzed again. This time it wasn't the group chat. It was a direct message from a number she didn't recognize. You should be careful who you let in at night. Not everyone in this building is harmless. Her pulse spiked. Was it a threat? A warning or another neighbor playing games? She set the phone down, forcing her breath steady. But she couldn't ignore the gnawing question, why had Julian Crane come to her door? And why tonight the group chat kept buzzing in the background, screenshots piling up, her name being dragged deeper into something she couldn't control. She hadn't opened the envelope yet, but she would, because whatever was inside might be the only way to silence the noise or to confirm every rumor they were already spreading. Her fingers brushed the seal, hesitant. That's when another message popped up in the group chat. Check your inbox. Someone just leaked an old photo of Crane with another tenant. Amelia froze. She clicked, and what she saw made her blood run cold. Her struggles. The leaked photo burned on her screen. Julian Crane again, arm around a woman much younger standing outside the very same building. The caption from the group chat read, "History repeats." Amelia closed her eyes. The room felt smaller, suffocating. She shoved the phone away and let herself collapse onto the thin mattress. But closing her eyes didn't stop the memories. It hadn't always been like this. 2 years ago, Amelia was just another freshman with oversized dreams and undersized savings. Her mother's words echoed still. Education is your ticket out, baby. Don't waste it, no matter how hard it gets hold on. Her mother had worked 2 jobs, sometimes 3, to keep their small family afloat. Amelia had sworn she would repay that sacrifice by graduating on time. But scholarships were scarce, tuition kept rising, and student loans only dug the hole deeper. By her second semester, she was behind on every bill. Electricity notices piled up. The fridge held nothing but condiments. She skipped meals, told her friends she wasn't hungry, and prayed no one noticed her jeans hanging looser. Then came the rent. The first time she was late, she thought she'd be evicted immediately. But instead, she received a neatly typed letter from the building office. You have been granted a 1-week grace period. She didn't know it then, but Julian Crane's signature at the bottom carried weight. He rarely made exceptions. Tenants whispered he cared more about profits than people. Yet for some reason, her notice had been softened. She remembered walking into his office, palms sweaty, to explain herself. She'd expected disdain, maybe even mockery. Instead, he barely looked up from his papers. Pay by Friday, he had said flatly. And then softer, don't make a habit of it. It wasn't kindness exactly, but it wasn't cruelty either. Back in her apartment now, Amelia thought of that moment. How her stomach had twisted with shame, yet also a strange flicker of relief. Why me? Why had he given me that chance? The group chat might say it was obvious. They'd already drawn their conclusions, painting her as another girl taken care of. But she knew the truth. She'd never taken a dime she hadn't earned. Still, the weight of debt pressed heavier each semester. She juggled part-time jobs, tutoring, cafe shifts, even late-night cleaning gigs, but it was never enough. Tuition deadlines always arrived before her paychecks did. There had been nights she sat at her desk, staring at the online payment portal, whispering to herself like a prayer, just one more week. Just let me make it through. Her laptop still carried the tab open, red warnings flashing, outstanding balance, enrollment at risk. And tonight, as fate would have it, Julian Crane had knocked on her door with an envelope. Her phone buzzed again, snapping her back. She flinched, but this time it wasn't the group chat. It was an unread email. Subject line, final notice. Tuition deadline. Her heart dropped. Tomorrow. If she didn't pay by tomorrow, she would be dropped from all her courses. She pressed her forehead against her knees. The timing was cruel. The envelope on her desk glared at her like a lifeline wrapped in barbed wire. Her thoughts spiraled. If it's money, could I even take it? Would it mean I've become exactly what they think I am? Would my mother understand? Or would she be ashamed? The shame was the worst part. It stuck to her skin like smoke, even though she had done nothing wrong. A memory surfaced, her mother's voice again, the night Amelia had received her first acceptance letter. Don't let anyone make you feel small for needing help. Pride doesn't pay the bills, love, but dignity that you must guard. Dignity. Was opening the envelope a betrayal of that? Or was refusing it just another way of drowning silently? She paced the tiny apartment. The fridge hummed the ceiling. Light flickered every corner, reminding her of how precarious her life was. The envelope sat there untouched. She reached for it. Her fingers trembled on the seal. But before she could tear it open, the phone buzzed once more, this time louder, sharper. Another notification from the neighborhood group chat. Someone had just uploaded a screenshot of building security footage, and her door was in clear view. His past revealed. The security footage froze her mid-breath. Grainy but undeniable Julian Crane at her door. His shadow stretched long across the hallway carpet. The video showed her hand appearing briefly in the frame the envelope exchanged, and then him walking away. The chat exploded. Proof. There it is. Midnight delivery. He's done this before. Amelia slammed her laptop shut. Her pulse thundered in her ears. Her dignity, her mother's voice, her whole world felt like it was cracking under the weight of strangers' speculation. But across town, Julian Crane sat alone in his penthouse, staring at a very different screen. His study was cavernous, lined with dark wood and shelves of books no one had opened in years. The city lights painted the windows silver. He leaned back in his leather chair, the envelope log from his assistant blinking on his monitor. Envelope delivered 12:03 a.m. Delivered. Not explained. Not understood. Julian rubbed his temples. He hadn't planned on being seen. For years he had lived in calculated silence, every word, every action measured. Billionaires didn't get the luxury of mistakes. But tonight had been different. He opened the bottom drawer of his desk and pulled out a crumpled piece of paper. The edges were worn, the ink faded, but he knew every line by heart. You were never there when it mattered. You can't buy your way into forgiveness. Don't call me again, Dad. His daughter's last letter. Julian's throat tightened. He had read it so many times that the words etched themselves into his bones. Every empire he had built, every tower with his name on it, felt hollow compared to the silence of her absence. That was why Amelia had stopped him cold the first time he'd seen her sitting in the leasing office, eyes downcast, explaining she couldn't make rent. The tremble in her voice, the stubborn refusal to ask for pity, it reminded him of his daughter before she cut him out. He had told himself he was only being fair, granting her the grace period. But deep down, he knew it was something else, a desperate chance to do for a stranger what he had failed to do for his own blood. Tonight, leaving that envelope had been his clumsy way of, what, redemption? The city outside roared with nightlife, but in his penthouse there was only silence. Meanwhile, Amelia sat at her desk staring at the envelope once more. She thought about tearing it open, but fear held her back. She whispered into the empty room, "Why me? Why now?" Her phone buzzed. This time it wasn't the group chat. It was an email from Julian Crane, subject, private meeting. Her eyes widened. "Miss Chen, I understand tonight has already stirred questions you did not ask for. Meet me tomorrow afternoon at the office. I would like to explain myself directly." JC. Her heart pounded. Explain, her first instinct was to ignore it. But part of her knew she wouldn't sleep until she had answers. Julian across town poured himself a glass of scotch. His hands shook slightly as he lifted it. He could already hear his board's voices if this spiraled further. Scandal. Misconduct. Headlines. They wouldn't care about his reasons. Billionaires didn't get reasons. But Amelia deserved to know. He stared again at the crumpled letter on his desk. His daughter's handwriting blurred through the tears he refused to shed. Would Amelia even believe him? Or would she see only what everyone else saw, another powerful man exploiting someone weaker? The clock ticked past 2 a.m. in both their rooms. Amelia clutching an envelope she hadn't opened. Julian clutching a letter he couldn't forget. Neither could escape the inevitable. Tomorrow their paths would cross again. And this time there would be no locked doors or shadowed hallways. There would only be truth, or at least his version of it. The offer. The office tower loomed above Amelia like a fortress of glass and steel. She hesitated at the revolving doors, clutching her worn satchel as if it were armor. The world inside belonged to people like him, not her. But she had come anyway, because the envelope still sat unopened on her desk, because her tuition deadline was hours away, because the questions buzzing in her chest were louder than her fear. The receptionist guided her wordlessly to the top floor. The elevator ride was too smooth too fast, and when the doors slid open, Julian Crane was already waiting. "Miss Chen," he said, his voice even. "Come in." His office was all angles and light, the skyline stretching endless behind him. He gestured toward a chair, but Amelia stayed standing. "I'll be quick," she said, her voice steadier than she felt. "Why did you come to my door at midnight?" Julian studied her hands clasped behind his back. Then, without preamble, he spoke. "Because you're about to lose your education, and I can stop that." The words hit her like a slap. Her chest tightened. "So it is money. It's opportunity," he corrected. "Tuition, paid in full." She shook her head immediately, anger rising. "You think you can buy me off? You think I don't know what people are saying in the group chat?" Julian's jaw tightened. People will always talk, but the truth is simpler. I see potential in you, and I won't watch it go to waste. Her laugh was bitter. "Potential? You don't even know me." "I know enough," he replied quietly. "You remind me of someone I lost." The words lingered heavy in the air. Amelia frowned, but he offered nothing more. Instead, he slid a folder across the desk. Inside was Proof University invoices stamped, paid, her name typed neatly at the top. Her throat constricted. It was real. "I don't want your charity," she said, forcing the folder shut. "This isn't charity." His gaze locked on hers, unwavering. "It's atonement." A beat of silence. His eyes flickered just for a second with something she couldn't place, regret maybe. "I told you," she said softly. "I don't need your money." "No," Julian admitted, voice low. "But you need a future." Her pulse hammered. Every logical part of her screamed to walk out, to slam the door behind her and never look back. But another part, the exhausted, hungry, cornered part, whispered, "What if he's right?" Before she could decide, her phone buzzed violently in her pocket. She glanced down, heart sinking. The group chat again. A new screenshot filled the screen, her entering the tower lobby, time-stamped less than an hour ago. Well, 4B at Crane's office, tuition girl strikes again. "Guess we know how she's paying now," Scandal confirmed. Her stomach dropped. It didn't matter what Julian said, what was in the folder, what truth he carried outside these walls. The world had already chosen its story. She shoved the phone back into her pocket, blinking against the sting in her eyes. "You don't understand," she whispered. "Even if you pay, even if I finish school, they'll never let me forget this." Julian leaned forward, his voice sharp with conviction. "Then let them talk. You will walk across that graduation stage, Amelia Chen, no matter what they say. And I will take every rumor, every headline, every whisper onto myself if I must." She stared at him, speechless. For a moment, she almost believed him, but belief was fragile. And outside, the group chat was already loading its next attack. The consequences. By the time Amelia left the tower, her phone was a battlefield. Notifications stacked so quickly the screen froze between swipes. Her classmates had seen the screenshot from the group chat. Friends who once studied with her now sent clipped, loaded messages. "Is it true? So that's how you're paying tuition. Didn't think you'd be that girl." She shoved the phone deep in her bag, but whispers followed her through campus. Heads turned when she walked past the library steps. A professor paused mid-lecture when she entered, late eyes narrowing before continuing. It was happening. Not in headlines, not in rumors, her reputation was unraveling in real time. Meanwhile, in a boardroom 40 floors above the city, Julian Crane faced his own storm. A half circle of men and women in sharp suits sat before him, their expressions tight. The board of Crane Holdings rarely summoned him, but today the air crackled with judgment. Julian, one director, began, tone-clipped, "We've received troubling inquiries." Another slid a tablet across the table. The screen showed the same neighborhood group chat, screenshot his figure outside Amelia's door. The envelope, the blurry photo. "This is beneath the company's name," the director continued. "Your personal actions are bleeding into business." Julian's jaw locked. "This is gossip, not fact. Gossip becomes fact once it circulates enough." Another cut in. "Our investors are asking questions. If this escalates into scandal, then I will handle it." Julian snapped sharper than intended. The room stiffened. Even he knew the words carried less weight than they used to. Once his presence alone silenced doubts. But tonight he looked less like the untouchable billionaire and more like a man cornered. Back in her apartment, Amelia sat hunched on the floor, knees to her chest. Her mother's voice echoed in her mind, "Dignity, Amelia. Guard it." But dignity felt impossible when her inbox filled with anonymous subject lines. "We know what you're doing. Slut for rent. Hope the tuition's worth your name." Her chest ached. She wanted to scream that it wasn't true, that she hadn't asked for this, that she still hadn't even opened the envelope. But who would listen? The group chat had already written the ending. Julian paced his penthouse that night, city lights flashing across his restless steps. He poured another drink untouched on the table, his mind replaying boardroom accusations. "They'll ruin her to ruin me." The thought lodged like glass in his chest. He had meant to protect her, to atone, to do one decent thing in a life of sterile transactions. Instead, he had dragged her into a storm she couldn't weather. For a moment, he considered rescinding the offer, burning the tuition receipts, retreating into silence again. It would be easier, safer. But then he saw her face again, her defiance, her fear, the echo of his daughter's eyes when she had once begged him to listen. He couldn't walk away. Not this time. Days blurred. Amelia stopped eating in the cafeteria. The stares were too sharp. She avoided study groups. Whispers rose the moment she entered. Professors asked her to stay after class, concern laced with suspicion. And then came the phone call. Her aunt's voice heavy with disappointment. "Your mother told me. I saw the pictures, Amelia. Is this how you honor her sacrifices, trading yourself for tuition?" Tears burned hot, but Amelia held her ground. "That's not what happened," she whispered. "Then what did her aunt press?" Amelia opened her mouth, but no answer came. Because what could she say? That her billionaire landlord had appeared at midnight out of guilt and ghosts, that he claimed she reminded him of his daughter, that he paid her tuition out of atonement, not desire. No one would believe it. That night, the group chat lit up again with a new bombshell. An anonymous neighbor claimed they had security camera footage from inside the lobby. This time, the promise wasn't a photo or a rumor. It was video. And the message ended with a warning. "If this leaks, everyone will know the truth. Unless someone stops it." Amelia's hands shook as she read it. Truth. What truth? Her stomach churned. She didn't know if the footage would damn her or save her. But she knew one thing: someone else was pulling strings now, and neither she nor Julian was in control anymore. Breaking point, Amelia stared at the message until the letters blurred. Security footage. Truth. Unless someone stops it. Her mind spun in circles. Was this blackmail a neighbor playing savior, or just another cruel trick? The phone buzzed again, new messages stacking in the group chat. Drop the footage. Uploaded already. Expose them both. Her heart hammered against her ribs. She wanted to disappear, to crawl under the floorboards and never resurface. Instead, she sat in the dark, gripping her knees to her chest, whispering to herself like a mantra, "I didn't do anything wrong. I didn't do anything wrong." But the city outside didn't care. Across town, Julian Crane paced his office. His assistant hovered nervously by the door. "Sir," she said softly, "the footage. If it's released, I know." His voice was a growl, low and tired. He hadn't slept in days. The board was circling like vultures, investors already whispering about reputation risk. If the footage leaked, it wouldn't matter what it showed. Perception was stronger than truth. And Amelia, she would be destroyed first. Julian gripped the edge of his desk, the weight of years pressing down. For once, he didn't see skyscrapers and contracts. He saw his daughter, red-eyed and trembling, begging him not to trade her childhood for another deal. And he had failed her. Now, standing on the edge of another failure, he asked himself, was I saving Amelia? Or was I trying to save myself? The question hollowed him. The footage dropped 2 nights later. Not through the group chat, but everywhere at once. Social media feeds, gossip sites, even a student-run newspaper on campus. The video played on loop, Julian Crane entering the building lobby, striding through like a shadow, pausing at Amelia's door, knocking. Her face flashed briefly pale and uncertain. He slid an envelope into her hand, and then he walked away. No embrace, no lingering, no scandalous exchange, just a man leaving paper at a door. But the damage was already done. Comment sections flared. Doesn't matter what it looks like, we all know what's in that envelope. Classic cover-up. Billionaires are never clean. That poor girl. She'll never escape this now. For Amelia, the leak was unbearable. Her classmates showed her the video as if she hadn't already seen it 100 times. Professors looked at her with pity disguised as professionalism. Even strangers in the coffee shop turned their heads when she walked in, murmuring under their breath. She began avoiding campus altogether, holed up in her apartment, lights off, blinds drawn. Her tuition was technically paid, now the system showing current balance zeros. But the victory felt poisoned. Her education, once a dream, now tasted like debt she hadn't chosen. Julian, meanwhile, made his decision. In the next board meeting, he announced, "I'll step back." The room gasped, but he continued. For the company's protection, effective immediately. It wasn't an apology. It wasn't even an admission. But it was enough to quiet them for now. Later, alone in his car, he let the mask crack. His chest heaved with something like grief, though he told himself it was only exhaustion. That night, Amelia wrote her resignation email to the university. She couldn't take it anymore, the whispers, the labels, the sense that no matter what she did, her name would be chained to his. Better to leave than to live in the shadow of rumor. Her fingers hovered over the send button, but then a knock came at her door. Not soft, not patient. This one was urgent. She froze, breath caught. Another knock, louder. She opened the door a crack, and there stood Julian Crane, disheveled eyes hollow but burning. "Miss Chen," he said, voice raw. "Don't you dare quit." Julian's words rang like a command. "Don't you dare quit." Amelia stared at him, stunned. His coat was rumpled, his eyes bloodshot. He looked less like a billionaire and more like a man on the verge of collapse. "You don't get to tell me what to do," she snapped, her voice trembling. "You ruined everything. My name, my life. You—" Her throat caught. The rage gave way to tears she'd held back too long. Julian didn't flinch. Instead, he pulled something from his coat pocket, a flash drive, small and silver. He set it on the table between them. "This," he said quietly, "is the real footage." Amelia blinked. "What do you mean I've seen the video?" "Everyone has." Julian shook his head. "You've seen what they wanted you to see. Cropped, edited. The building cameras don't lie, Amelia. But people do." Her hands shook as she picked up the drive. She slid it into her laptop, breath shallow as the file loaded. The grainy lobby video began again, but this time it didn't cut off when he left her door. Instead, it showed more. After Julian walked away, another neighbor appeared at the end of the hall. The camera caught him crouching near her door, snapping photos, sending messages. He lingered there, typing furiously into his phone before slipping back into his own apartment. Amelia gasped. He staged it. He's the one who spread it. Julian's jaw tightened. He's been feeding that group chat since last year. The girl from 7C, same story. Rumors, half-truths, then gone. They never asked why she left, only assumed. The weight in Amelia's chest shifted. It wasn't relief exactly, but it was something close to air after drowning. "You knew," she asked, her voice breaking. "I suspected," Julian admitted. "But I underestimated how quickly it would spiral this time. I thought leaving the envelope quietly would shield you." His hand curled into a fist. "I was wrong." The room went still. Amelia's thoughts raced. If the truth was here in her laptop, then she wasn't powerless anymore. She had proof, but proof alone wouldn't erase the damage. She looked at Julian, her voice low. "Why me? Why risk all this for me?" He hesitated, then reached into his other pocket. This time he pulled out a crumpled letter, the same one he kept locked away in his study. "My daughter," he said hoarsely. "She cut me out years ago. Said I only cared about money, not her. When I saw you, fighting alone, refusing to beg, it was like seeing her again. This wasn't about buying you, Amelia. It was about giving someone the chance I failed to give her." Her eyes blurred with tears. The truth was messy, tangled in regret and guilt, but it was human. And for the first time, she saw Julian not as a landlord or a billionaire, but as a father who had lost too much. Before she could respond, her phone buzzed again. The group chat. New message, breaking, full footage leaked. Someone uploaded it all. Her breath hitched. She opened the link, and there it was, the real video, uncut, already spreading. The comments this time were different. "Wait, he didn't do anything. Looks like the neighbor set her up. Guess we all jumped too fast." The tide was turning. For the first time in weeks, Amelia felt the grip of shame loosen just slightly. She looked at Julian, who seemed to sag under the weight of it all, and then in a twist she hadn't expected, he collapsed, his body folding as if the strings holding him upright had been cut. "Julian," she cried, rushing forward as he hit the floor. His face was pale, sweat beading his brow. He tried to speak, but only one word escaped before his eyes fluttered shut. "Daughter." Tuition paid, dignity restored. Julian's body was heavy in her arms, his skin clammy beneath her trembling hands. "Somebody help!" Amelia screamed into the hallway, her voice ricocheting off the walls. Doors cracked open, faces peeked out. For once, no one lifted their phones to snap pictures. They only watched as paramedics rushed in, lifting Julian onto a stretcher. Amelia followed, her heart pounding all the way to the hospital. The waiting room was sterile and humming with fluorescent light. She sat hunched forward, clutching her satchel like it was the only thing keeping her upright. Hours stretched like days. Finally, a doctor appeared. "He's stable. Exhaustion. Stress compounded with dehydration. He'll need rest, but he's lucky you were there." Relief washed through her, sharp and dizzying. She nodded mutely, then asked, "Can I see him?" The doctor hesitated before nodding. Briefly, Julian lay pale against the hospital sheets, an IV in his arm. For the first time, he looked fragile, stripped of the power his name usually carried. His eyes fluttered open when she entered. "You stayed," he rasped. "Of course I stayed," she said softly. "You nearly died." His lips curved faintly. "Wouldn't have been the first time I killed myself with work." Amelia sank into the chair beside him. Silence hung, filled with everything they hadn't said. Then Julian's gaze sharpened. "The footage, it cleared you." She nodded. "People are finally seeing the truth. The neighbor's the one who spread it. They're turning on him now." Julian exhaled slowly, his chest rising and falling with something like relief. "Good. You didn't deserve any of this." Her eyes burned. "Neither did you." A week later, the storm began to settle. The university released an official statement: Amelia Chen's tuition has been fully funded by an anonymous benefactor with no strings attached. The phrasing was deliberate, clean, transparent, impossible to twist. She knew who the benefactor was, of course. And though Julian's name wasn't on the announcement, his quiet nod from his hospital bed had been enough. The group chat went silent. Members left one by one, the gossip drying up in the face of exposed lies. Her classmates stopped whispering, some even apologized, but Amelia didn't forget the sting. She carried it like a scar, not visible but permanent. Still, she returned to class, one step at a time. Graduation day arrived months later, sunlight pouring over rows of caps and gowns. Amelia stood tall, her robe swaying in the breeze, her heart thudding with each name called. When her turn came, she crossed the stage with steady steps. The diploma slid into her hands, smooth and real. And tucked in her pocket was a folded envelope, the same one Julian had pressed through her door that first night. She had finally opened it. Inside had been a single line, handwritten in deliberate ink: "For the future you deserve. JC." After the ceremony, she found him waiting at the edge of the crowd. No suit this time, just a simple coat, his face healthier than when she'd last seen him. "You made it," he said, pride hidden in his tone. Amelia smiled faintly. "We both did." They stood in silence for a moment, the noise of celebration swirling around them. Finally, she spoke. "Julian, you don't have to keep carrying the past. You did what you could for me. Maybe that's enough." His eyes softened, shadows lifting ever so slightly. "My daughter may never forgive me, but helping you, it gave me a piece of peace I thought I'd lost." Amelia's throat tightened. She wanted to tell him that redemption didn't always come from those we wronged, that sometimes it came from choosing to do better for someone else. Instead, she only nodded. As she walked away, diploma in hand, sunlight on her face, she thought of her mother's words. "Pride doesn't pay the bills, but dignity, you must guard it." She had guarded it, even when the world tried to strip it away. And though the midnight knock had nearly broken her, it had also given her something she hadn't expected: a future. Sometimes salvation didn't come wrapped in glory. Sometimes it arrived in the quiet scrape of an envelope sliding across the floor.